Hello, everybody. A very good morning to those in Barcelona. It's 6 in the evening here in Brisbane, Australia. And so, for everyone in other time zones, let me greet you the Australian way and say good day. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the opportunity to share my thoughts and opinions on a subject that has been of considerable interest to me during my 4-decade career as an agronomist, working across 4 continents and with many of the food crops that are grown and consumed around the world. My primary focus has been on plant nutrients and nutrition to optimize plant productivity, but we cannot separate this area of study from the ultimate objective, which is human nutrition. The primary reason we engage in agriculture is to provide food, and food that meets the nutritional needs of the human body. This presentation is based on a publication titled Mineral Nutrient Rich Plants, Do They Exist? In Applied Food Research in October 2023. And in this paper, we have identified many of the factors that influence mineral nutrient absorption. These factors are what I will call context, or the specific conditions under which the food plant was grown in. I will not elaborate on them because they will be familiar to many of you and are also quite well documented in the literature. Some of the literature guidelines from well-respected sources are often quoted and relied upon for actions such as formulation of policy, nutritional intervention strategies, etc. And I have listed some of these in these slides uh, from prestigious institutions like the Cleveland Clinic, Harvard School of Public Health, and even governments like what we have in Australia. Now, how useful are such guidelines? I would like to make a well-intentioned criticism. And the criticism I would like to make with such sources is not one of integrity, rather the issue of completeness. Are these sources considering every factor that, that impact mineral nutrition and human nutrition? So I am not questioning the value and veracity of such guidelines, only, as I said before, the completeness. Do they consider all factors that impact the results? And that's the question I would like to leave with you, and which I will try to expand in my presentation. Very briefly, some of the factors that impact absorption of mineral nutrients by plants have been listed in this slide, such as in the soil, the environment, plant factors, and agronomic factors. And what are the impacts and consequences of mineral nutrient deficits? Just let's look at some of the factors. So, just to be clear, in this presentation, I will not discuss issues related to what has been referred to as the historical decline in nutrients due to genetic causes, monoculture farming, modern varieties, and factors attributed to modern agriculture, etc. This is a debate that has grabbed media scrutiny, but various authors, such as Miles, which I have referred to in my paper, have refuted the criticisms and dealt with this issue adequately. So let me briefly run through the global mineral nutrient supply status, just to get an understanding of the scale of the problem. And in this slide, I have listed some of the statistics that have been available. Unfortunately, there isn't a whole lot of more recent statistics that are specific to mineral nutrient. There are a lot of figures and numbers on nutrition as a whole pertaining to human nutrition, but the data is not very specific for mineral nutrition as is found in this source. However, it's very clear that more than half the world population is still deficient in iron, and half the world population is still deficient in zinc, in spite of the spotlight being focused on this problem. Some data from Australia is also revealing, and as you can see, the situation is far from ideal. And so the reality is that in the year 2000, no country was without any nutrient problems in crop production. So what are the impacts and consequences of these? Obviously, these impacts and consequences are exacerbated in areas with natural disasters and conflict. And so what do we do about this? So several strategies have been attempted to address issues, several like the nutrient budgeting at agrosystem scales, and most of the attempts and strategies have been at a global scale, and the FAO has been leading in this area. I would like to say that an understanding at the macro scale is fundamental, right? And this has to be prioritized and continued. However, in spite of the global efforts to address and manage plant nutrient supply, success is still a fair distance away, right? So we have to ask the question, what next? And we have to see whether there are other pathways to achieve this. So what I'm proposing is an alternative parallel pathway. The information I have given so far serves as the background to the issues associated with plant mineral nutrition. So, if I pose the question from a purely mineral nutrient supply focus, does our food supply all our mineral nutrient needs? The honest answer would be that we really do not know. There seems to be a disconnect between expectation and reality because the reality is full of assumptions. Assumptions that certain foods are rich in certain minerals when we don't have reliable, comprehensive evidence. Testing for minerals and assuming that the values we get from such analysis are stable, reliable, and importantly representative is a questionable assumption. I say questionable because it does not take into consideration the agronomic regime the plant was grown under. In particular, the fertilizer or plant nutrient program, soil moisture status, as well as the soil type and other environmental factors such as temperature and light that are known to influence nutrient absorption and plant productivity. For instance, a statement such as the iron content in spinach is 2.7 milligrams in 100 grams of raw spinach. By the way, let's not go into the confounding factors such as bioavailability of the non-heme iron, oxalic acid, etc. in spinach. Such a statement that the iron content in spinach is 2.7 milligrams in 100 grams of raw spinach clearly lacks context. The context in which the spinach was grown, such as, for example, whether the grower relied only on iron in his soil or supplemented it with a micronutrient fertilizer containing iron, to pick just one of the agronomic factors affecting mineral nutrient status. I have been involved with growers who follow both scenarios I just described. They can do so without much consequence because the optimal level of iron in a leaf test ranges from 50 to 100 parts per million. This is quite a wide range. Also, unfortunately, this is an arbitrary optimum range that the testing lab provides and is not based on verified data. However, this subject of testing norms is outside the scope of today's presentation. In fact, much of Australian norms are based on US values. As much as there is a problem with inadequate levels of mineral nutrients in foods, there is also the problem with excess. In the example of spinach, a high level over 10 milligrams per 100 grams raw leaf could also be a problem for some people with high iron in their diets, example, regular meat consumers, and also vulnerable consumers who are sensitive to excessive iron in their diets. It is therefore evident that the agronomic environment is not a trivial factor, and clearly more attention must be given to practices like fertilizing, such as with micronutrient supplements. I would also take this opportunity to stress the need to address the whole suite of mineral nutrient needs of the plant in the balanced fertilizer and complete fertilizer sense of the practice, rather than on just the NPK focus, and to always stay within the requirements of the law of the minimum. This is the only way we can understand the roles of nutrients and their effects on plant productivity. So there is a clear need for quantitative data to address the question posed in the title. For a start, food composition tables should be based on material where at least the nutritional inputs are known and based on actual analysis from selected farms or areas. This could be an annual or scheduled exercise by compilers of such data. Also, this would provide the additional benefit of informing producers about the status of their production practices and the need for any remedial measures, if any. Such a strategy could help understand the contributions of key variables to mineral nutrient contents, identify those that have greater impact and which therefore need to be prioritized. Each chemical nutrient has a personality of its own and behaves in unique ways, be it when alone or in association with other nutrients. Taking the individual chemistries into consideration is key to understanding the reactions, interactions, and outcomes of the relationships between nutrient, plant, and environment. So we have to take into consideration the variables in this whole scenario, such as the choice of crops, the choice of nutrients, the area of production zones in terms of their soil types and soil chemistries, then also the frequency of testing and the updates to the data. So it is very important that a more robust statistical approach needs to be adopted to collate, analyze, and interpret nutrient composition data obtained from the different growing environments, with suitable weightages given to the various factors discussed in this review that impact nutrient content in food plants. Thank you very much for your attention.